Thank you so much. Wow. That makes it all worth it.
Whew. So Jeremy, before
Yeah.
you get to talking, I want to bring your friend up. He's filming right now, though.
Yes.
This is, right over there is Martine Gigi. He is
Martine.
the director of Sweetwater tomorrow night,
Yes.
which Jeremy also stars in. And it was thanks to his friendship with Jeremy, thanks to Martine and your friendship, that we have this wonderful man here.
Yeah, he convinced me to come, and now it was all worth it. Because, man, do I love to be celebrated. Let's be honest.
So Martine, will you come out here and help me do the honors? So we've got a Career Achievement Award presented to Mr. Jeremy Piven.
Oh, wow.
In honor of your passion and dedication to acting and your commitment to the art of independent filmmaking, in recognition of your outstanding career of making memorable characters come to life on stage and screen, and in appreciation to your devotion to projects that make us laugh, make us cry, and make a difference. Thank you for sharing your passion with us and with the world. Jeremy Piven, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you so much. You know, I'm on the strangest timeline. You know, you guys are out here in this spiritual vortex, and I won the Fresh Face of the Year award at 40. And I swear to you, and I accepted the award, and I said, thank you, there's nothing fresh about my face, but I gladly accept this award. And here I am with some sort of Lifetime Achievement Award, and I feel like I'm still living. You know what I mean? still got a little, I don't know, it's very rare.
Hey, to my credit,
Yeah.
I did call it a Career Achievement
Career,
Award.
thank you, brother.
Not Lifetime, Jeremy.
Yeah,
not
lifetime,
lifetime.
my God. Whew, shit.
You dodged that bullet.
Yeah, no, this is a great honor, and I really appreciate it. And you know, I really do. It's funny because if you would have said, you know, a Lifetime Achievement Award, for instance, and to do what I believe is the best work of my life, you know, at the same time, would be an interesting feat. You know what I mean? But I do think this is the best thing that I've ever done. And I'm looking out and I'm seeing all different generations. And some of you have maybe never seen me in anything, which I think is great. You know? There's your answer.
Yeah.
I mean, if this is your first time seeing me in something after 80 movies, I love that. No, I really mean that. I mean that.
All right, Jeremy, take us on this journey. This is a passion project of yours and your sister's. Tell us how many years this has been in the making and where did this all come from?
My mother, Joyce Piven, gave me this short story out of the New Yorker 15 years ago and said, there's something in here for you. And she's been my acting teacher since I was a child, her and my father. She passed away a couple weeks ago. I buried her in Chicago. Yeah, heavy time. And but she's here with us somewhere. Anyway, but she gave this to me, and she's not frivolous. She said, "There's something in here for you." And so I got the rights from Rebecca Miller, who is Arthur Miller's daughter, and I've been paying for them for 15 years. And you know, that's the funny thing about life is. If you really stick it out, no matter what you're doing, you're going to make it, because they're all going to laugh at you and they're all going to say, you know, you're too old to do this role, you can't dance. You know, Ari Gold, you can't tap dance, or whatever they would say. 11 people know that reference. I love it. That was a test. I was testing the temperature, because there's... So yeah, so here's what happened. The role, as you know, called for a tap dancer. I don't tap dance. Martine is a brilliant writer, director, but also a musician, and I'm a drummer. So I figured, okay, that's my way in. I'm a drummer. I know rhythmically how to enter into that. So I started studying tap, and every year they said no, that we couldn't get the money. I just got better at tap dancing. Literally. I swear to God. So I heard 10 years or more of no's, and then by the time we somehow miraculously got the money. And by the way, the guy that gave us the money, he didn't know any better, because anyone who had really crunched the numbers and was in Hollywood wouldn't bet on a period piece that's an indie film. Unfortunately, they don't really do them anymore. Martine pulled off another brilliant one, but they're very few and far between.
So take us back to your sister and working with your sister on this as a director, as co-writer. What was that like on set?
Well, you have to understand, we grew up in the work at the Piven Theater. My family has a theater, so we grew up in the work together. So we know each other creatively inside and out, and so we're kind of on shorthand in that way. And she's a brilliant theater director, which means that she can execute a direction, and you probably think any director can. And that's not necessarily the case. She's just someone, because she's used to working with actors, teaching them. She grew up as an actor, so she can give me a tweak that to a lot of film directors, they may come from a technical background. So, if you have Ridley Scott that I did Black Hawk Down with, I asked him a question, and he said, "I've got the entire movie shot and edited right here. Excuse me." And he walked away. I went, "How was I?" We haven't started. This is awkward. So, he's doesn't come from the theater. He is one of the best directors visually in the history of film. Alien and all of his films are staggeringly beautiful. But Shira, my sister, knows how to execute a direction. So, like, for instance, when I'm backstage and I'm finding out that I'm about to dance for Hitler, and I'm rallying the troops. As an actor, the stakes can't get any higher, right? And you live for this, and I've got this speech. And so I'm doing this speech, and I'm feeling pretty good about it. And, there's a lot of different tones that you need to hit within that speech. And, the stakes of Hitler's out there. I'm finally getting my shot. They can't leave me. We have to do this. There is no turning back, all those variables. But she comes in and she goes, "Don't forget to inspire them." And I was like, "Oh my God, you're right." Just little tweaks like that as a director that are brilliant that she could say to me. And, sometimes I could say, "Well, why don't you shut the fuck up?" But I say that with love. I say that with love. I'm sorry. Sorry, you guys. She's my sister. No, we don't.
I don't even know how to follow that. If anyone has a question, raise your hand. I'm coming back to you, Shirin. I know that if we would have been paying attention to the credits instead of you, we would have seen this. Where did you shoot on location in all those locations? Where was it? Was it shot in all those locations we were seeing?
We shot it in Bratislava, Slovakia. Okay, one person knows Slovakia. I love it. Slovakia is beautiful. And it's a great, great double for Germany, it's like a cousin of Austria. Austria thinks it's Germany. Bratislava thinks it's Austria. Like, it's all connected. Some of the first Jews were put on trains and sold out in Bratislava. I could feel it. It was heavy. It was thick. This is the best role of my life because I identify with this character more than any character I've ever played in my life. I felt like I was doing a documentary. I mean, that sounds very pretentious, but it just did. That's the way it felt. Thank you.
Well, you said it. It felt like a documentary in Harold May's life, and so I had a couple questions about the duplicity of the role how you approached it, and how were you able to keep your facial hair? Because, of course, in those years, that's kind of, especially in the Hitler regime, there was no facial hair. But the duplicity of the role and the complexity of the role, considering Harold Mays, initially did it, and then you came in and you did it brilliantly as if you were living in that time. So how did you approach that?
Great question. Thank you. I appreciate the question. The facial hair is, I'm an Eastern European hairy Jew. I mean, it just keeps coming. I don't know what to tell you. It just, he's coming. That's like the lead, so the variable with that is continuity. But I had been working on this film for all those years, hoping it would get made. My sister adapted this brilliant, she did a brilliant job. It was this short story that she explored and heightened and made it her own. And so as an actor, you live to play something like that and to inhabit that story and that character, those stakes, that language, everything. It's the dream. And for me, I'm so much like Harold, to be honest with you. I mean, some of those lines rang so true to me because you're always trying to find what is it that touches you about the character. And also, you can't judge your characters. If your character is evil, no one is the devil in their own story, so you can't judge your character if you're playing an evil character. If that makes any sense? You have to just play them and give them integrity and the circumstances. It'll all be worked out, if that makes any sense. But with Harold May, I've been asked this question a lot, like how much you like Ari Gold or these other characters that I played, and there are characters that are really those characters, and I meet them all the time. I meet a lot of men who think that they actually are the real Ari, and it's adorable, all the time. But with Harold May, I mean, that guy is as close to me as anything I've ever played. I mean, I can tell you certain scenes where it's like, people are like, the reviews have been, career-defining performance, disappeared into the role. I didn't disappear into the role. I reappeared. Yes, Phil Donahue. I love Phil Donahue.
I really enjoyed the tap dancing in the film, and could you talk a little bit more about it, how much you had to train for the tap dancing, and who was your tap double, and how you...
You!
and who...
See how she slipped that in there?
And how you...
Are you a dancer?
Yes.
Ah.
And how you found all the other tap dancers. It looked like a lot of them had Slovakian names. So if you could just talk about that, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah. So she's a professional, so she knows. She knows what's up. Look, the reality is I did study for 10 years, but you probably studied for many decades. And so I'm just a small man. Gonna go over here. No. No, listen, she's right. First of all, Jared Grimes, the great Jared Grimes, who you can, if any of you are on Instagram, Grimy Steps is the name of his Instagram handle. And he looks like, and I'm not making this up, if Fred Astaire was reincarnated as a black man in Harlem. That's exactly what Jared looks like. I swear to God, he's the reincarnation of Fred Astaire. And he's just eloquent and brilliant. He's the Marlon Brando of tap. I mean, he's just genius. And, he had patience with me, and he taught me year after year. I'm a drummer, but to play the drums with your feet is the hardest thing in the world, as you know. So, yes, listen, I did all the tap numbers. I learned everything. I did them all. Now, yeah, thank you. I mean, listen, it's what we do. I feel silly even, like I'm an actor. I learned my lines. Please celebrate me. You know, but the reality is, you know, the rest of my troupe are classically trained. You could tell. You can tell. Some of them are professional. The guy who played Paul Isaac. He's a classically trained ballet dancer and a tap dancer. I mean, these guys. You know, rehearsal was humiliating for me. I mean, it was like he's a kid, and you know, he's touching his toes, and so I did all the dances, and listen, I won't unpack everything, but there are moments where, like, because we shot everything in one take, and yeah, and there are moments where it's like I'm very hard on myself. I didn't nail the choreography. I just didn't. I didn't grow up as a dancer, so it's like these guys are 2, 3, 4, and then they would launch into it, and I'd be like, "Fuck," you know, and I would hit it, but you know, I knew they had to get creative in the editing room, and they did, and they saved my ass. But you know, listen, it worked out. You know, we told the story, and that's all that matters.
Is it true that you broke your ribs in the movies?
I did. We were shooting in Slovakia, and we're getting ready to shoot the scene with the Nazis. And you know, I also produced the film, and so you know, it's this weird duality where I'm the actor and the producer. I'd never produced before. But I knew that we were going to lose the location. So we were going to do the fight sequence and then another very important sequence. And so I had my stunt double there. You don't know what you look like until you have to be doubled. You know what I mean? Then you're like, okay, what do I look like? It's a good question. And so apparently the guy that looked the most like me is Turkish. He's this Turkish dude. And we put a blonde wig on him. And he's a professional stuntman. He's younger, stronger, better looking, everything. And yet, I decided, because we had no time, I was like, I got this. So I did the entire fight sequence. And what happens is, when you're an actor, you know, you get so lost in the scene. So I'm on my hands and knees. The guy kicks me. I throw myself up in the air. And the DP said, open up for camera. So I throw myself up in the air. And you know, I go to like, because I'm feeling where I got hit, instead of being a stuntman, which is, I'm going to break my fall. I'm not thinking about breaking my fall. I'm thinking about, where does it hurt? And before I know it, I land on my fist on the hardwood floor and I break 8 ribs, 4 on each side. Yeah. And then the Slovakian producer goes, you know, you're going to be fine. And I was like, like those sounds you heard, that's real. Those were real sounds. I mean, you're probably like, man, that sounds real. It's hard to watch. And I couldn't move. And then finally he understood, you know, the pain I was in. And he said, we're going to take you to the oldest hospital in Bratislava. And I said, I want the newest hospital. I was like, it's not a sightseeing tour. So it gets even weirder. It gets even weirder. We get there to the hospital, and there's like guys like mopping up, and they're kind of barking, and I was like, wait, what's going on? It felt like maybe a place for the mentally ill. I mean, it literally, no, I'm not making a joke. I mean, there was something about it. It was like, it was off. They x-rayed me. There was no MRI, just x-rayed me and told me I was fine and I can go home. And I was like, I heard my ribs. You know when you're done with a water bottle and you crinkle it? That's what it sounded like when I hit the ground. So I was like, oh, they're broken and I can't breathe. So I just took a bunch of painkillers, you know, didn't sleep, and just kept shooting. And, you know, listen, the reality is it's a small price to pay, because when you're doing something that you have to do, and there's nothing that's going to stop you. I was like, okay, I'm not sleeping. I'm hopped up on painkillers, and I'm just going to play through. And that, because it is a very empowering feeling to know nothing can stop you,
So I know that you've mentioned that this part felt very innate for you. Starting in that sort of innateness, and as you explored, what were some of your discoveries as you got deeper and closer to the character that might have moved you?
It's a great question. Let me sit down for that question. I think, sometimes we can be so all in on our livelihood, our ambition, and I know that I have been my whole life, and I know that Harold is, and so so much so that I, committed so foolishly to that moment when I should have used a stunt double and been smarter. There are better ways to do it. So we're all flawed, and we all can be slaves to our own ambition, and I definitely think I am. This is the best therapy session ever, so I want to thank you guys. I should literally be paying all of you for this. But also, coming to terms with, the real theme of the movie is, whether you're Jewish or not, it's really about, the oppressed and the oppressor, and also how much of yourself will you compromise to become successful. And we've all grappled with that in our lives, and we all compromise ourselves, on a daily basis for momentum. I think most of you probably came out here for spiritual reasons and never left, and I celebrate you. I think I'm next. I love it out here. It's incredible. I totally understand it. But for those of us who are still in the belly of the beast, like myself, so yeah, I think, also my Jewishness, we're living in a time where I think it's very easy to count out or be negative or dismiss the Jewish community because we're an affluent minority, and there's some confusion, and people don't know the history of anything. But, everything that's going on in the Middle East, it's nuanced, you know what I mean? And there were people, when we were trying to, sell the film, that wouldn't touch it because they said, listen, there are people protesting on campuses. And I'm going, what does that have to do with an Arthur Miller piece in 1937? This isn't about modern day politics. This isn't celebrating Netanyahu or the policies. This is a piece of literature that shows history and then shows who's next. My buddy Jared Grimes, who's dancing on the street at the end. That's the choreographer, by the way. Yeah. So you see, the sign that says, coloreds only, colored entrance. Thank you. That's all very intentional. My sister directed him in a certain way where you saw the pain on his face, and you get to see who's next, and the journey continues. But listen, man, this film hasn't come out yet, so it's up to you guys to tell your friends.
So 15 years is a long time, a long journey that you made it through. Were there ever any times, especially being told no, maybe for reasons like that that were very frustrating, et cetera, where did you ever reach a point where you said, you know what, that's enough. I'm done with this thing, and your sister picked you back up, or the other way around?
You know, I don't. I just have to be honest, man. That it was so important to me that it represented my livelihood. It represented me. If I gave up, I would be giving up on myself. So you can never do that. I know it sounds very dramatic, but I just never gave up on the performance or myself. I wish I could be more diplomatic and say that my sister picked me up. I wish I could. I'm not that evolved. Yeah, I will say to you that one of the greatest lessons that I've learned over the past couple decades is no one's coming to save you, and that's a hard lesson to learn. And it's a gift when they don't come for you, because then you got to pick yourself up. Because I'm telling you, I've done this my whole life, and it's been an insane ride, and I don't even have enough time to tell you about this journey because you wouldn't believe it if I told you. But we keep looking for logic and for things to make sense in this life, and it doesn't, and you have to be okay with it. And you have to just keep kind of moving forward and try to keep learning. And there was some interesting definition of evolution, which is to be pliable and open for change. And I think now people have become very rigid, and they're so dug in with their political identity or whatever, and they're unwilling to hear anyone else's side. And I think now more than ever, we just have to be available to the truth wherever that comes from. All right. Man, I'm glad you're with me.
Two things. First, congrats on a great job.
Thank you.
Really great job.
Thank you. Wow. I think I found my audience.
I am.
All right.
I have a crazy question for you. You're not a smoker, are you?
I've never smoked a cigarette. You could tell. Could you tell?
Let me rephrase that. You don't smoke cigarettes or cigars.
I smoke cigars.
Oh. Never mind.
That was the weirdest question I've ever gotten. That's like a trick question.
Thank you for joining us tonight. You talked about the challenges of getting funding for this movie, and the fact that it's still not out yet. And when we go to the multiplex now, the choices seem to be Marvel, DC, horror genres, the fifth sequel of a movie. And it's so difficult to find movies like this today in the theater or even streaming. And what are your thoughts on the future of being able to get funding and to have art like this available to us rather than the next damn superhero movie?
Well, yeah, thank you. Look at that. Wow. Whew, man, you guys, I'm with you. I'm with you guys. We're starting to see in real time that people have had it. You've all worked too hard for your money. You have taste, and you've had it with these viciously mediocre, Marvel movies that, have a lot of money to advertise and fool people into thinking that this is going to be the one. But what I think is, and I could be totally wrong, but I hope I'm not, that, for instance, you have movies like Anora. Have you guys seen Anora? Yeah. All right, that's cool. That's a lot of you. Anora is an independent film that will win at least one Academy Award, I think, this year, probably for Best Actress. She's brilliant, and it's just this beautiful indie that's original and heartbreaking and a perfect use of film. And I think what we're about to go into could be like the golden age of, during the 70s, where they broke the bank with Cleopatra, and then they went to like Taxi Driver, and they went into all those movies from the 70s, and then great films started emerging, the Scorseses of the world and everyone. So I feel like the Anoras of the world, that are made for $8 million and that have made 50, 60 in the theaters already, I think if people continue to voice their opinions and get out there and say, we've had it, we're going to go to the theater, but we're not going to go say, I know you're doing it by your actions, because a lot of these big films are tanking. But so I don't think they can continue, that system can continue the way it is. So I think if they were smart, you spend $100 million, let's just say, that's a low ball number on, one of these films. Why not 10 of these? Because this thing costs $10 million, and it looks like a really big movie, but every penny goes up there. So I'm hoping that the business catches up to what you guys want, because I think the audience is, I hope so.
Indeed, a wonderful performance. But I'm hoping that you might talk about the philosophy of the use of color and who decided that. Was it a group decision, your sister's decision, your as producer's decision, the editor, and what was that philosophy?
Color and the coloring of the film, or the colors used?
Coloring of. When it was used, when it wasn't used.
I think one of the variables is money, to be honest with you. You can't quite do everything you want to do, so Shira, my sister, went, let's establish that we're doing a Super 8 film, which looks like film from back in the day. And so we can show it through this actual film that really is an homage to that time. So I think that was, there are many decisions to make. Do you make the film in black and white? We spent real money on post-production and making it really look like Germany at that time. So we tried to make it as authentic as possible, contemporize it, but still make it rooted in 1937, if that makes any sense.
You brought up post-production, and that has to do with my question as to how long did the editing take? How long did it take to complete it once you had? And I noticed that Una Flaherty has an editing credit, and she and her husband and 2 children happen to live in the very house next door to our house in Los Angeles.
Stop it.
She's our next door neighbor. How did she do?
How did she do? Oh my God, that's incredible. I know exactly where you live, man. That I want to talk to you afterwards, because she is an angel. She's a superstar. I'm not just saying it. I'll tell you, I'm not supposed to say this, but Una was hired in the very beginning to just do kind of an assembly of the film. So you hire an assistant editor that does an assembly, and they turn it in. Then the main editor comes in and works with the director, and then her brother comes in and mansplains with his toxic masculinity. And Una, so I saw Una's assembly, I was like, who is this? Because I never met her. And, you know, I was always in rehearsal, on the set, whatever. I never got to meet her. And I reached out to her, and we found her, and she was already, you know, scooped up by James. Who'd you work with next? James Cameron? Not James Cameron. Not James Franco. It'll come to me in a second as I think about it. What's that? You know what? She's now, I couldn't afford her, I guarantee you. My point to you is she had blown up because she's so good. I said to her, do you mind helping us out with this edit? And she came in, and she's so brilliant. And so Una really is responsible for this cut, and that's what's incredible about a film, you guys. It's not enough to do the best work of your life. It's not enough to find the best DP who is an Israeli guy who shot 200 commercials and had never done a feature and crushed it. You need to have an amazing editor. And everyone has to be on their game. And yet here we are with the best work. I'm 80 films into a career. This is the best film of my life. You know, it hasn't come out yet, and we need to get it out. So it's crazy, and I just, you know, I know at a certain point you have to just surrender and to the universal timeline and all that kind of stuff, but and never give up. But yeah, thank God for Una. And when you see her, tell her that you loved her work, please.
Nice. Jeremy, we have time for 3 more questions. Charlotte,
Okay.
Patty, I see you, and Amy Waddell. I'll get down to you.
Welcome to Sedona, Mr. Priven. It's an honor
Thank
to have
you.
you here. I have 2 questions. One's a real easy, peasy one, because I've been to Bratislava. What building did you use for the hotel?
That was one of those,
Just on the street?
it was on the street.
Well, yeah, but I mean, like, you fell across it and that looked like a grand hotel?
Yes.
Wow.
You know, and it was stunning and just as beautiful. You know, we did some set decorating, but it had all that. It was just grand and had incredible natural light.
It was stunning.
Yeah,
Stunning.
we were very lucky.
The question I really have for you, because this is such an impactful film, not only obviously for yourself and your sister, obviously also for all of us that have seen it, I would be very curious to know, given how impactful it truly is, will guide you in your future choices and selections of roles that you will accept. I'm a big devotee, I'll admit it, of PBS. I saw you in Selfridge. Would you be looking to
All
do...
right, okay. Now I knew we would get to it.
Would you be looking to be doing more...
I knew this was like a fancy PBS crowd. I knew it.
Would you be looking to do more of historical stories such as this and bringing truth to film versus, no offense, Ari Gold?
You know what? Here's the good news about, first of all, thank you. The good news about all that is, and about life, and you guys know this because you seem very evolved, is I don't take anything personally anymore. There's no time for that because she comes from love, and everyone does, and everyone's broken. So I accept that.
I have a tricky question.
You know, what a great question, and that's very challenging, and that's something my mother would say. Like she said to me, okay, you're 50, what are you gonna do with the next 50 years? And she said that to me, and she meant it. And she meant that, it was just heavy and succinct, you know, and it's something to think about. You know, what are we gonna do with our lives? Not just in a very beautifully challenging way. And the answer to that is, and I love that, and I was asked that by a reporter that had been doing this her whole life. She's, you know, it's like probably 60 years in the game. And she said, you know, this is gonna change everything. And you know, isn't it interesting that it took me finding, or my mother finding a piece of material, my sister kind of adapting it, and then putting it up myself, as opposed to, someone else getting me to find the best role of my life. And, so yes, I want to do things that I'm incredibly moved by and inspired by, and that will make people think and have uncomfortable conversations like this film. Wouldn't that be great? At the same time, I really love money. Do you know what I mean? No, just kidding. No, I'm lucky enough, because of the interesting trajectory of my life, which is another story. I've been, running around doing stand-up comedy, and so that I can pick up a microphone and go anywhere and make a living. And, actors are like tap dancers. It's like, nothing's guaranteed. So I can, to answer your question, if I need money, I can jump up and do some stand-up. So I can basically do the roles that I connect with as an actor. And so I hope to continue this integrity. Thank you for that question.
Hi. I have sort of a production type of chicken and eggs question for you. There's a lot of stock footage to get the feel for the era. And your one character is carrying a camera, filming a lot of what he's doing. Was that planned ahead of time to help and get that feeling that, so you got the sense maybe it was his camera taking a lot of these footage that you're showing? Or was it the reverse thing, that, we just need stock footage to fill in the locations? I want just the process behind that led to that.
I think, I know for sure that my sister really wanted some sort of a visual homage to that time. And with that 8mm, you can get that. So, and having Paul start to film, you can then see it from his POV, and you can let the audience in. And so, and the stock footage, that was an artistic choice by my sister. She's, we don't, everyone, a lot of people come to me and go, how did you work with your sister? You know what I mean? Because we all have siblings, and it's an interesting dynamic. You know what I mean? And so we come from the same place, and but we have different taste. And she's the director, and I let her kind of run with it. So we didn't see eye to eye with certain things, and the reality is she created a beautiful, beautiful film.
Well, I think having him hold the camera throughout, covers 90% of the stock footage to begin with. Of course, he didn't jump off the ship and take a ship in the ocean.
Yeah.
But
and I wish we had the money to do that.
Yeah, but he. I have a bathtub and a little toy boat that you can know.
Oh, there you go.
But I think having him filming it throughout the movie, I think enhanced that usage of it for her to be able to blend the two. So that just a question.
All right, Amy Waddell, you got the final question. Sorry to those of you that I couldn't get to, but he has got to get to a red carpet interview and the party.
Thank you. First, the reason I think this film is going to do extremely well is because you were talking at the beginning about it's a divided time. And definitely there are people that are waking up and looking at the news and are completely elated, and other people that are completely horrified and devastated. And circling back to Nazi Germany, the film has done it again and again. But the way that your sister and you do it, you run your character right up to Hitler, right up to like the beast, and you put us in that position of not running away, turning away, whatever, and we, really facing that thing in front of us. And it seems like this is exactly the time, so the fact that the film took so long to make is really okay, because it's coming out at such a wonderful time, I think. That's one.
You're right.
That's not, but my question is, in all those years, did you ever put it up on stage since you are a theater family?
Wow, another great question. And I think this would, it would make an amazing stage production. It really would, absolutely. And it's a great idea. And then you could break into tap numbers. So it could almost technically be a musical, you know, or not. But you're right. And, you know, sadly, and it is the perfect time for this film, because I think there are a lot of people that, you know, don't really know about the history or what happened recently. And this is a great way, I believe, you know, people are like, they ask me why I stay silent in terms of not going out and tweeting and, you know, doing these performative gestures. And I say, well, the reality is when actors do that, no one takes us seriously, number one. Let's be honest. And also, this is how I contributed to the conversation, by doing what I do, which I'm an actor, and so I tell stories, and so now we can have these conversations, and it can continue. Because a lot of people, you know, a lot of what racism or anti-Semitism is also the lack of knowledge of someone else's culture. And the more we can educate people on that, the better off we're gonna be. Welcome to my TED Talk, everybody. You guys have been incredible.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen,
I'm
give it
gonna
up
do
one
a
more
tight
time.
47 minutes of stand-up comedy now.
Harold May, Mr.
Thank you,
Jeremy
guys.
Piven.
Thank you for saying. They said you wouldn't stay for the Q&A, but I knew you would.
Good night. Thank you all for joining us. We're going to whisk him out to the red carpet because he has an interview out there, but he'll be out in the lobby. Thanks, everyone.
All right. Thank you, buddy. Well, who knew?